Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Over Tea. So today we are going to be recommending some books to read with specific kinds of tea. So we've had this idea for a while and we thought it would just be fun to come up with what we think the tea is, like what flavor it is, what it feels like, and kind of create like a character and then pick some books that kind of go with that feel. So we have two book recommendations for each tea. One is a classic and one is a more modern book. And so now we're going to start off with Earl Gray.
So Maddie doesn't really like Earl Grey tea, but this has been one of my favorites lately, and to both of us it kind of seemed like a superior tea. Like it's kind of like an old British man who thinks he's better than everyone else. It was kind of hard to find kind of like superior British books that were written in the modern times, but we did our best, and the first one that we came up with was The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funke. So the blurb of this book is: two orphaned children are on the run, hiding among the crumbling canals and misty alleyways of the city of Venice. Befriended by a gang of street children and their mysterious leader, the Thief Lord, they shelter in an old disused cinema. On their trail is a bungling detective obsessed with disguises and the health of his pet tortoises.
We chose this book mostly because of the detective Victor kind of reminded us of the character that we thought up of for Earl Grey.
I don't know if this is because in the movie he's played by the butler from Downton Abbey, and if that made us think of kind of that kind of guy.
I think it kind of did, because he's not exactly like that, but it's still, I don't know, it's still like, it's not a British book, it's German, but it feels British.
It definitely had like a very kind of superior feel to it. Like it's modern, but it almost feels more
like it was written a long time ago.
Or at least it wasn't supposed to be set in the present day. Yeah, it was like, it's not anything amazing, but it just has these elements that are like, I don't know, are things that we like and probably just remind us of like the more classical feel that we enjoy reading about. I don't know. It didn't have a very good message.
Yeah.
But it's like, it didn't have a message.
Yeah, I don't know if it had a message, but it was like a fun kind of adventure book. I'm confused by the ending. Like, I know what happened, but I don't really know.
It took, like, it just was not what we were expecting, and I don't know if that made us like it less or more.
Yeah.
But overall, we liked what it was.
Mm-hmm. So then the second book that we picked is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is what we picked for a classic, though it's not really a classic because it's only written in 1989, but it really feels like a classic. So in the summer of 1956, Stevens, a long-serving butler at Darlington Hall, decides to take a motoring trip through the West Country. The 6-day excursion becomes a journey into the past of Stevens and England, a past that takes in fascism, 2 world wars, and then something that's a spoiler. So, I read this book for English class, and Amelia's actually going to be reading it this year. But I really, really enjoyed this book. It's slow, it's contemplative. The butler, Stevens, in this book is definitely the reason I picked this for Earl Grey. He is like the perfect butler. Everything about him is just superior butler. He's like the head butler. It's his journal, and as he goes on this trip and thinks about the past, and he just has like the funniest British way of writing, and I laughed sometimes. It's like so dry, and like, you know, it's not supposed to be funny. Like, he doesn't think it's funny sometimes, but it's just like, it was just really funny, and I really liked it, and it just really, it really felt like Earl Grey tea, so I think it would be a great book to read with that tea. So then the next tea we have is English breakfast tea. We thought of this tea as kind of like, this is the one that we fall back on when you don't have anything else. It's always there. It's, you know, it's always good. So we thought of a character that was kind of like a motherly figure that's always there. She's dependable.
So the first book that we have for English breakfast is The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. Mary, the bookish, ugly duckling of Pride and Prejudice, 5 Bennet sisters, emerges from the shadows and transforms into a desired woman with choices of her own. What if Mary Bennet's life took a different path from that laid out for her in Pride and Prejudice? What if the frustrated intellectual of the Bennet family, the marginalized middle daughter, the plain girl who takes refuge in her books, eventually found the fulfillment enjoyed by her prettier, more competent sisters? In my eyes, Mary Bennet is very much the character who is nothing too special, but she's very dependable, and she's just a good character overall. The book just felt like one that is a little long and a little boring at times, but one that you know will always be a good story. I really like this book because it's kind of like nothing I've ever read, in that it really feels like a Jane Austen, but it was written in the modern times. And the author is not afraid to be a little boring and get into descriptions and really get into the characters and make you kind of work in reading it. I know some people wouldn't like that, but I really liked the book and I thought it fit this tea pretty well.
The next book is Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. I'm sure everybody knows the story of Mary Poppins. I felt like she kind of fit the British dependable nanny. This book is definitely different than the movie. She's much sterner and a little bit more pompous and vain. So it's pretty different from the movie. But it's just a fun kids book, and I just felt like it fit the English breakfast tea vibe.
So next we have green tea. So what we envisioned with this one is like very naturey and kind of whimsical and like little fawns and nymphs and like youthfulness.
So for green tea, for the modern book, I picked Toby Alone by Timothy D. Fombelle. So this is a story of adventure, heroism, friendship, and survival with a powerful ecological message set in a miniature world. Toby is just 1.5 millimeters tall and is the most wanted person in the great oak tree. So I picked this mostly, look at the cover. It looks very naturey. And I picked this because like one of the main plots of the book is about saving the tree that they live in. So it's a whole world of tiny people. It felt like green tea to me. I don't even like green tea that much. This is just a video talking about how I don't like tea. I don't like green tea that much, but it just felt right.
Our next book is Brownie and the Princess and Other Stories by Louisa May Alcott. From the author of the beloved classic Little Women come 10 short stories to delight and charm. Filled with characters who have all the warmth, liveliness, and appeal of Jo March and her sisters, these stories will open up a whole new world for Alcott fans and remain every bit as captivating as when they were first written over a century ago. So I don't know if I'm just recommending this book because I really liked it or if it actually goes along with this, but if you look at the cover, it really feels naturey and whimsical, and it's so cute. And not all of the stories go with this, but definitely the Brownie and the Princess story is all about the brownie who lives without much in the woods and is surviving on her own and just appreciating everything around her. And some of the stories are really interesting, and like one's set like in the American Revolution and stuff, and there's just like stories that are not usually what you see from Louisa May Alcott. All of them are definitely worth the read. They're all really good, and I just love Louisa May Alcott's writing and all of the books that I've read by her.
So then the next tea that we picked is chai tea, and this tea really made us feel fall. Academia, just like books and learning and just crisp leaves, and we just thought it really felt like fall. It felt like fall. So the first book that I picked is The Sherwood Ring by Elizabeth Marie Pope. So the newly orphaned Peggy Graham is caught off guard when she first arrives at her family's ancestral estate. Her eccentric Uncle Enos drives away her only new acquaintance, and she was left to fend for herself. But she is not alone. The house is full of mysteries and ghosts. Soon Peggy becomes involved with the spirits of her own colonial ancestors. So that sounds really weird, but there are ghosts in this book, and ghosts come and tell her stories about a time during the American Revolution. It sounds weird, but it's really good. I picked this mostly because of the ghosts, just because it's fall, Halloween. The ghosts don't really have anything to do with like Halloween, and they don't really feel like ghosts in the book, but it does kind of have a little bit of like the spooky mystery vibes that I was kind of thinking of with chai tea. So that's why I picked it, and I just really enjoy Elizabeth Marie Pope's writing. So for our modern book, we picked Mortal Sight by Sandra Fernandez Rhodes. 17-year-old Sierra Marlowe wants a normal life, one where she and her mom can stop skipping town every time a disturbing vision strikes. Suddenly thrown into an ancient supernatural battle, Sierra discovers she's not alone in her gifting and vows to use her visions to save lives. But why does John Milton's poem Paradise Lost keep interrupting her thoughts? I mainly picked this book because it has a very fall
feel to it. If you look at the cover, there's like leaves on it, and it just felt really fall, and it's all about Paradise Lost and like literature and art and things like that. It doesn't fit it perfectly because it's not super academic, but it definitely kind of feels like chai tea, and I really liked it.
And then we do actually have another book because we could not only pick two. We have The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear. Kit has grown up in the island of Barbados, loved and pampered by her grandfather. But after his death, Kit must leave. She sets sail to live with the only relatives she knows in New England. When she arrives, Kit is shocked by the gray, damp landscape, but even more stunned by the puritanical lifestyle of her uncle's household.
If I remember correctly, this one has some really good like autumn descriptions and just really feels like the fall. I really like this book. I think I've read it 3 or 4 times, and there's just something about it. I really love the characters. I really love reading about them and coming back to the story, even though I kind of already know it all. I just really like the writing. So the last tea that we have is Spearmint, which is Maddie's favorite tea. And for this one, we kind of thought of kind of like an earthy and spring kind of book. We didn't really have a character for this one. I don't know. I was really thinking of like natural kind of like remedies and just like very earthy books.
I think I was mostly thinking of like just like fresh mint. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just feels very fresh, which I don't know how to translate into book form. So we kind of went with the more medicinal.
Oh, I didn't even see. So yeah, so we have 2 different ones, and the first
Colin for oh!
So the one that I picked is Echo Mountain by Lauren Wolk. A young heroine in Depression-era Maine is navigating the rocky terrain of her new life on Echo Mountain. After the financial crash, Ellie and her family have lost nearly everything, including their home in town. They have started over, carving out a new life in the unforgiving terrain of Echo Mountain. So this book is about a girl whose father goes into a coma after being hit by a tree, and she befriends this kind of old lady that everyone finds mysterious and dangerous. And yeah, I really liked this book, and I felt like the old lady was kind of what I was thinking that Spearmint was like.
So then the next book that we picked is The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This is a very hard book to describe. This book is about a group of friends, mole, rat, toad, and badger, and they are little animals who live in little houses, and it just kind of follows their adventures and how they help out their friend Toad when he's in trouble. Oh, Toad. We thought of this book for Spearmint just because it's very naturey and fresh and just kind of like sweet and innocent. It doesn't have a whole lot to it. It's just kind of like just going on these little adventures.
Yeah, I read this book a couple years ago and really liked it, and I feel like it definitely is a very fun book with lots of little adventures, and if you haven't read it, it's definitely a good one to add to the list.
And it's a good classic to read because it's not very hard. It's a children's classic. It's if you want to read classics but you don't know really where to start, this is a really good one to read.
So that is all of the tea and the books that we're going to talk about today. We hope you liked this video. We really enjoyed coming up with all of the books and thinking about our favorite teas and everything that we like about them, and coming up with some books that we really like that go along with them. We hope you are enjoying the fall season and drinking lots of tea and reading lots of good books, and we just want to thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in our next post.